Okay, let's talk about Lamar Jackson and how he played against the Indianapolis Colts. Well, the Colts aren't having a great year, not expected to do a whole lot. So obviously, this is going to be a video talking about how great the Ravens' offense was, right? Okay, not exactly. The Colts apparently are having a good year. They're 2-1, and the Ravens weren't able to get as much done as we probably would have thought heading into this game. So what do we do? Are the Colts just better than we realized? Is this a disaster by the Ravens? There was some bad weather. How much did that affect things? Well, I think it's a combination of all of that stuff, and let's get into what exactly went wrong for Baltimore and what went right for the Colts defense. First, what we're going to start off with, Lamar's rushing was still a very effective strategy in this one. He still had over 100 rushing yards. This is a designed quarterback run towards the offense's right. See how some of the blocks on this play on that side of the field are going to go. Right off the bat, Jackson runs a play action, rolls out towards the top of the screen, and you see that how he's very patient, waiting for the blocks to get made. Definitely doing a good job of letting those things happen. Don't run yourself out of a potential good situation. But once the blocks are made, he turns on the jets, accelerates past that point. At this part, though, definitely a dangerous situation. First off, don't want to just take a hit, right? You're Lamar Jackson, don't want to get injured. Ravens are a very different team if he is no longer healthy. But watch this move Lamar pulls off to be able to sort of, sidestep a defensive back, gets into the end zone for a touchdown. Does take a hit, but not a hard one at all. Not one that you expect him to get banged up on. Really good stuff from Lamar, and he was still effective at this in this game. That was probably the bright spot of the Ravens, I thought. There were just a lot of issues, and some of it was beating themselves, some of it wasn't. So this one, for example, the defender that we're going to talk about is going to be Samson Ebukam, who hasn't necessarily been a superstar over his career, kind of been like a fine rotational piece. That's typically what he's known for. Has a one-on-one matchup here on the outside against the Baltimore left tackle. This is Patrick Macari, who, as a whole, I wouldn't say is a bad player or anything like this, but watch what, quite frankly, on paper, you think this is advantage Baltimore. However, right here, you see Ebukam's just going to win immediately, gets that sack, and actually caused the fumble. Baltimore recovered that one, but still, that was a 3rd down and 4, real opportunity to get a drive going. Instead, not just that, you have to punt the ball back, giving the Colts good field position. Just, a really good defensive play or a bad block, whichever way you want to go with it. There were just a few of those plays that I thought stunted Baltimore. They made too many mistakes in this game. Like this one, again, an edge rusher being a tackle isn't a mistake, but it's, that quickly is still something you'd like to avoid. These are just straight up like miscues, though. Like, watch how you're going to see Lamar Jackson. He eventually tries to pump fake, and the ball just slips out of his hands, and the Indianapolis Colts recover, and you just give them the ball in field goal range right there. Again, talked about the weather. That probably played a role. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, long term, I'm not concerned about Lamar Jackson forgetting not just how to throw football, but like just losing the football. But in this game, that's how, in a tight game, it can turn wins into losses, which in the AFC, where there are so many good teams, you can't afford to lose many winnable games. You just can't. Like this one's another one where it's, again, 3rd down and 5. Huge situation. You're down at this point, actually, late in the first half. You want to make sure you can get something going. And watch the snap. It's just at Lamar's feet. Lamar does the right thing. He, just dives on it, which what you got to do. But this sucks for several reasons. For one, it basically forces Lamar Jackson to take a hit, which you don't love to see. Also, it's just like, that was a 3rd down. You had a chance to get off the field right there. You weren't able to do it. And when you do it this many times, when you beat yourself this many times, it just means that you can't, because then there were others, like there was the Isaiah Likely drop towards the end. I made a whole video on the pass interference that wasn't called in overtime. That should have been called. And Baltimore probably still could have won this game if that was called. Again, it was a 50-50 game, but they shouldn't have let themselves get into that position to begin with. They made too many mistakes early on, I thought. And, something like this, another classic example of just where Baltimore needs to get better, quite frankly. This is where Baltimore needs to get better, and we've seen this becoming just an increasingly larger trend this season. And, I think to some degree we have to give Indianapolis some credit. I think that some of these defensive players have stepped up and played well. I think Kenny Moore's having a good year so far. I don't know if it's exactly how you say his name. I'm not sure if it's Dallas or Dallas Flowers, the undrafted free agent. He's come in and been a solid player so far for Indianapolis. They have had players come in. Their linebackers have covered very well. They have had a solid coverage unit. At the same time, it's one of those situations where it's like, for Baltimore, this is just becoming an increasingly larger trend that's gone on for years now of they need guys to be able to win in this situation. It's a one-on-one matchup. You need someone who can just go out and win, and they have to look towards a tight end here. And Mark Andrews is a great tight end, and he's going up against Julius Brents here, the second-round pick. So, okay, someone who certainly has pedigree, but still, this is a rookie who is actually playing in his first game here in a big spot. You need to win this matchup. As you see, Andrews is going to run out, and this is well covered. It's good defense, and again, it's one play. It is what it is. I'm not bashing Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, I think is a really underrated player. I think he's great, but it's just like you need to win some of these at some point. At some point, someone has to go out and make a play, and that just wasn't happening in this game. Last week it was. But even in Houston, I thought that it was a struggle at times. In obvious passing situations, I don't think it's a Lamar Jackson issue. I think it's a Ravens receiver issues. You can blame Lamar if you want to, but when these teams have had to play man coverage, it hasn't worked. As you see, good defensive play. Again, got to give credit to Indianapolis. They are a big reason why this game ended up being a Indianapolis victory. The players on that Colts team, that's how it works, right? And just because they're a team that we didn't expect to do a lot this year doesn't mean that they can't be capable of playing good football. And hey, they have the same record as Baltimore right now, so it's not like it's a crazy take. But again, I think there's probably some people who thought that the Colts would be winning 2 games all year, not 2 out of the first 3 weeks, actually leading the division. So give them credit. But for Baltimore, am I worried long term? No, I'm not. I still think the Ravens are a very good football team. I think that they beat themselves a little bit, but and I think that 2 out of 3 weeks they haven't looked great, I would say. Even though week 1 I didn't think they looked great, they still were able to dominate the Texans. And maybe the Texans are better than we realized. Who knows? But I still didn't think they looked great. This week, I didn't think they looked great offensively. Did look very good against Cincinnati. Weren't perfect there, but Bengals are a good team, we assume. So I would still say that they looked good there. But, this is a disappointment, as they could easily be 3-0, and now it almost feels like, playing Cleveland next week and then Pittsburgh the week after kind of feels like those are really important games for Baltimore if they're going to be not just a playoff team, but a potential division winning team in maybe the toughest division in football. I would say just straight up the toughest division in football. Before the season, I probably would have said AFC East, but with Aaron Rodgers' injury, I think the AFC North is now the toughest. You can't be dropping games like this. You kind of get one. This is your one. You can't let it happen again, I think. Although, again, give credit to Indianapolis. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Ravens and all of this stuff. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.